If you guys haven't tuned into the podcast before, we'd like to do a little recap. It's a long ep. So we'd like to take about the first 15, 20 minutes, talk about what happened on the episode in case you forgot. And then we dig into our actual discussion of the episode. So if you're checking out just the recap, you can see our full discussion down in link below. And also, if you have your own insights, you have your own theories, reactions that you want to share, definitely go to our full discussion and pop it in the YouTube comments because we want to hear about it. So having said that,
let's dive into it.
Wilhelm, do you want to handle the first half recap?
I shall. And like Blake already mentioned, this was episode 37 from the Boughs. And we pick up with the group on their astrally projected spiritual journey, trying to separate Laudna and Delilah's souls. And on this journey, we left them having just gone down beneath this shack into this tunnel. And they actually have just traveled out of the tunnel, seemingly to this upside down white stone hellscape, essentially. So they pop out of this tunnel, they can see the sun tree in the distance, and they're like, let's head toward the city. Once they make their way in, they start to notice that everything is like bleak and dark and muted colors and like stony, like things that should be wood are kind of having like a stony aesthetic. It's just like a really bleak, meek situation. And as they're looking at it, they notice that the roofs and the buildings begin to shift. And it's the city almost is acting as a maze, like constantly shifting around them. So they're like, okay, what's going on here? They pop up. We get a few perception checks to try to figure out what's going on. But the first thing they notice is that there is a voice coming from the alleyway. And Imogen opens her mind to see if she can connect to this voice, but she's unable to. There is a presence there, but they just seemingly can't be connected with. We then hear this voice speak, and it's a young boy that says, I felt you following Matilda. Like, why is that? And this voice is like, we should come play this game with me, Secret Treasures. And the party gets closer to investigate, and they see this little boy, but also this little ethereal black energy form that is taking the shape of a young girl, Matilda. And Imogen kind of reaches out to this Matilda form and is like, hey, like, you know, can we help you? And the Matilda form is thinking like, I don't know if I should trust this kid, like this boy, but I like him. And again, the boy wants to play this game with her, and Imogen tells Matilda, hey, don't trust him. And Imogen rolls a persuasion check and is successful. So Matilda then steps away from the boy. He then gets angry and throws dirt at her, and the form of Matilda kind of like dissipates away. The boy then walks away and also kind of disappears. But Orm does use his know your enemy, like fighter sense feat that he has, and learns that the boy has a lot more HP than him, but a lower AC. So something is like not as it seems.
Right.
Imogen then reaches out again to try to see if she can find Matilda telepathically, and does find her. And Matilda lets them know that she is at the barn. So Orm climbs up to look for this barn. He does see it. And again, the city is kind of shifting around them. And so he kind of stays up there at his post while kind of guiding the rest of the team to get to this barn. And Matt described, because of the way the maze-like city is shifting around them, that there are going to be skill challenges to navigate. And these are kind of happening throughout the episode. They successfully complete this skill challenge because of Orm's help, make it to the barn, climb up, and inside, again, is this spectral form of Matilda. But there are also these dolls strewn about and these drawings. And so they start to ask her, like, what's going on? What are these dolls? And Matilda explains that, like, this one is the nice woman, and this was a bird that, you know, I hope can take me away from here. And she basically explains that there's this mean lady that won't let her leave, and she points toward the massive decrepit sun tree in the middle of the city when she is referring to that. They're like, well, okay, how do we get her out of here? What should the plan be? Meanwhile, Chetney is like looking around, and these vines have been starting to consume the barn that they're in. And Chetney's like, "Hey, we got to get out of here." And so he jumps to leave the barn, but as he does, the vines constrict and block his path. So they're like, "Oh gosh!" And in this moment, the Matilda form disappears again, and Chetney starts like trying to cut through the vines. He does, Orem cuts through the vines and does manage to make his way out. The rest of the party starts to attack them too, but it's just like regenerating too fast. So everyone inside has to start making saving throws against this necromantic effect. And on a save, they lose 1 hit dice. On a fail, they lose 2.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
It's getting pretty intense. So they're like, we got to get out of here. Ultimately, Chetney pulls out a piece of dynamite, chunks it, big explosion, and there's a hole big enough for them to escape through while like the vines are regenerating. So the party is then running through the city. Now, again, buildings shifting all around them. FCG flips their changebringer coin to decide which way to go. They decide to go right, and as they approach the city, the center of the city, Orem notices a bit of firelight in a nearby house and halts the group. And Imogen, once again, reaches out telepathically, but now she hears an older Laudna respond. And Matilda says, again, Matilda is Laudna, obviously, if that wasn't clear already, but Matilda says that she's getting busy, she's busy getting ready for a fancy dinner tonight, and she's like putting on a nice dress. And Imogen's like, no, like basically begging her not to go. Orem's like, hey, we can't change the past. We're here to, change the future. And
right.
Meanwhile, Fern had collected those dolls from the barn previously and is looking at them. And the older one, bigger doll is a woman. It's wearing a necklace. She takes the necklace off of it, and the doll like burns down to ash. And she has FCG inspect the necklace, and it's a real necklace. It's a fancy necklace, but it's not magical. Fern decides to keep it and actually puts it on for now. The party then make their way up inside, where Orem saw this light coming from, and they can see the room that Matilda is getting ready in. There's also an older man and an older woman in the room as well, also getting ready, and they're insisting like, hey, we need to hurry, we need to get going. Matt then asks Laura to roll just a d20, and this is basically another skill check for kind of navigating the city, but she rolls a 6, and so that's a failure. So Laudna's figure then disappears, getting ready to go to the dinner. Meanwhile, the older couple like turn around and follow her, but Imogen says, Delilah, we're coming for you. Both parents then like kind of turn around, and they notice this like green sheen in their eyes, and then all of a sudden they like lunge at the party. Big jump scare moment in the episode. Yeah. Fern and Imogen both take some necrotic damage. There's a really quick combat, like initiative is rolled, but they make pretty short work of it. Just a quick distraction. And the party realizes, hey, we can't keep like stopping at all of these little like Matilda memories we see. Like we're being distracted. We need to go to the source. And so They decide to head straight toward the Sun Tree. They go that way. The city continues to shift around them, but this time it's actually opening a path straight to the heart of the city for them. So they make their way there. FCG tosses it as a heal. Chetney chugs a potion. Chetney and Imogen both take their potions of possibility. They're basically getting ready for whatever this encounter is about to be. With the final preparations made, they kind of spread out a little bit in front of the tree and make their way toward it. As they do, there's this flicker of dark purple energy that kind of blossoms out of the ground and takes this ethereal form of Delilah. And that's where we go to break for the first half.
Yeah, so great job. What a very like thematic and spooky first half. I thought that was really cool. So in the second half, it's this very tense opening scene where, you kind of wonder, are we about to go to blows here? And Delilah, who is in sort of like this ephemeral, sort of like silhouette-esque form, I guess, she asks, so what now? So you think they would just attack, but it's like, so what do we do now? And the party is immediately trying to convince her to let them have Laudna, basically. FCG offers therapy to Delilah and is like, yeah, I don't know what you've been through, but clearly something traumatic. Do you want to talk about it? Which I think it would have been great if there had been like, I don't know, Matt's like, yeah, roll a persuasion check or something, but Matt just blows past it. He's like, no. And each of them actually kind of take almost all of them take a turn at like trying to convince her. Ashton, there's this really great moment where Ashton is like, hey, I know you're really stuck on Laudna, and this thing's like spinning out from you, like you're losing control, and like I've been there too, yada yada. And Matt just kind of like listens, and then after about 30 seconds, basically says, something like, I find the depths of your ignorance extremely boring. And you can see Taliesin, he's like, oh, okay, well, there's that. And she just like moves on from Taliesin or from Ashton. They ask again and again, like, let us have Laudna, like we know you're fading. And they're really trying to, like, she's presenting herself as like really in control. And the party's basically being like, we know that you need Laudna. Delilah admits that, I didn't choose Laudna, but because of the events that happened in the past with the Sun Tree and her own demise, we are inevitably bound together. And Delilah assures them there is literally no outcome that involves separating the two of us. Like we are as one, and either you leave Laudna with me here, or if you want to bring her back, you have to bring me back as well. There is, I think, an insight check or something like that that's rolled, and Imogen rolls like a 6 or something, or like a 4. And so not really sure if it's honest or not, but there is like a challenge of that to her where someone says, hey, I know you're fading here. Like you're fading away. Like you're losing your last remnants in this world. And Delilah actually isn't, rocked by that. She says, like, do you know where I'm fading to? And almost like it wouldn't be a bad thing if she faded away. And then she also mentions something like, you might have to help me with the exact phrasing, Will, but something like, there's essentially there's an eternity, if you're allied to him or like with him or something. And the party's like, well, who's he? I'm assuming the whispered one, but we'll talk about it in our reactions.
Yeah.
But definitely it seems to be still like some kind of presence with that entity of some kind. And then finally, Chetney is the one who ultimately does break through like this facade of confidence, and is basically like, if we're gonna work with you, like we need to see Laudna. We need to talk to Laudna. So Matt basically says, all right, roll a deception check. And he freaking rolls a natural 20, which you just knew it was coming. You knew he was going to roll a natural 20 because it's Travis. So rolls a natural 20. And then Matt shocks the cast. He says, 1 second, Marisha, you want to come out? And the cast is like, wait, what? What's going on? And Matt describes the tree, this spot in the center that's like kind of like claws covering a cage that opens up, and the spirit of Laudna connects with Imogen, speaks out. Marisha comes in the room, sits in the DM chair, and has this very touching moment with Imogen that is basically like, I'm counting on you guys. And they're like, we're going to help you. We're going to save you. And then the tree closes back up. Marisha has to leave. The party's like, you were in the DM chair. You should have said that Delilah dies, or you had all this power. She leaves. And Imogen basically tells Delilah, we're going to sunder you, and then psychic lances her, and initiative starts. So this combat starts. And remember, if you get reduced to 0 hit points, you're removed from the astral plane. You go back to Whitestone, to the real world, I guess. And again, not getting lost in the details of every action that happens here. A few of the players are going to focus on damaging Delilah. And she's extremely resilient, not just because she's Delilah, but because the other enemy in this combat is the Sun Tree, which is an active entity. And one of its lair actions is basically putting the shield around Delilah that keeps getting re-upped every turn. So there's Delilah that they're attacking. She's also casting Necrotic Burst. Pretty much every legendary action, which happens after each person's turn, is a Necrotic Burst. And this thing hits really hard, 20, 30 points. In fact, I think at one point it hit for 42 on someone.
Yeah.
It's insane. It also moves you 20 feet as well. So Delilah is necrotic bursting everybody, moving people around. Some people are attacking Delilah. Aurum is focused on getting to Laudna. And so he has a turn where he does this incredible like acrobatic description where he grabs this rope and tries to leap up onto the tree. He fails. He action surges, gets back up on the tree, and he begins hacking away at the tree to try to open up the tree to get to Laudna. FCG is also trying to help with this, but unfortunately, he takes a necrotic burst, and this was like round one, maybe round two. But Sam Riegel goes, I'm out. And he goes, see ya, and gets reduced to 0 hit points. And like, he's the healer of the party. So immediately everyone's like, wait, what? He gets up. He's like, I'm going to go join Marisha in the dead zone. So he leaves the table. He's gone. FGG's out of combat. Immediately there's some panic there. The party's continuing to try to figure out what to do. Fern is going to cast Scorching Ray at the tree, and Matt clarifies that there's actually 3 different parts of the tree that she can attack. And when she Scorching Rays, I think the top of the tree, I think the top actually gets destroyed by Aurum actually hacking away at it. When the top of the tree gets destroyed, Delilah's form becomes more necromantic. Her silhouette kind of solidifies into this sunken skull with green eyes. And Delilah basically freaks out to the point where Ashton's like, okay, attacking the tree is the right decision. Let's do it. So Fern's going to Scorching Ray it. They realize it's weak to fire. She's actually going to destroy the roots of the tree eventually. There are some undead that pop up that get destroyed pretty easily. And Aurum, who's on the tree trying to get to Laudna, eats a necrotic blast for 40-something damage, and he just is gone. Combat's coming down to the 3rd round to the wire, and they are using their motes of possibility. There's a nat 20 against Ashton, who uses one of his motes to get it re-rolled. And then Imogen, I think, had like 6 hit points left. She gets hit. She's going to poof. She does the mote. And there's this awesome moment where Matt, he rolls the dice, he looks up, and he says, natural 1. And Ashton's like, why do you have the same face as a natural 20? Like, come on, man. You got to change the face, please. So the necrotic burst misses. Imogen, who's been holding a level 3 spell slot this whole time, everyone's like, empty the clip. Use your spell slot. Let's go. She does lightning strike or lightning something. And remember, she told Delilah we were going to sunder you. She does the bolt of lightning on the tree. It sunders the tree, splits it in half, 30 plus damage, and Delilah screeches and then poofs to white as everyone wakes up in Whitestone. And that's where the episode ends. And that was episode 37 of From the Boughs. Campaign 3 of Critical Role. So check the link if you want to see our full discussion down below. All right, Will. Now that we've talked about it, pretty good app.
One of my favorites of the campaign, I think, honestly.
I agree. Yeah.